Welcome to the Homeownership Podcast presented by Momentum Realty, located in Hanover, Massachusetts. This series covers all things real estate and the best practices for buying, selling, and owning properties. Now here's your host, Sean Maloney.
Welcome to episode 118, Spring Projects Around the House. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Maloney. Thanks for joining me this week. This week I'm going to talk to you about some spring projects you can do around the house to create value both for yourself or for the possibility of selling. Not always do we need to create value for selling. Sometimes the reason that things sell is because they just look better or they just simply plain are better. So these projects here are going to be ones that you can be enjoying for yourself or projects that you can do in order to sell your home for the most money possible, because let's be honest, when selling a house, it's all about getting that money, and right now there's never been a better time. That said, I know a lot of people that are going lazy about putting the house on the market because they're just confident we'll sell. I can tell you all energies and efforts when selling a house lead to more offers, lead to more money, lead to a better closing on your home. First off, let's talk about seeding the lawn. So we're coming towards the end here in Massachusetts. Not the end, but the end of the prime. I would say no later than May 15th. So seeding the lawn is best done in the spring or fall. If you plan to do any seeding, you're best to have it started before May 15th to avoid the midsummer heat. Same thing goes in the fall before the deep cold. You want to start earlier, just after August. Really the second week of August is time to put seed down. I know that might sound crazy, but maybe the third week, depending on the year. But we ultimately want to protect it from either the hard heat or the hard freeze towards the end of the year. When we first get seed going, one of the things about it's got a little thing inside called a germ. There's only one germ inside of a seed, so think about it like an embryo. If you simply didn't eat or feed your baby for one day and you gave it more food tomorrow, more water tomorrow, and it hadn't made it through the night, your baby's no longer there. Same thing with your grass seed. So remember, when starting seed, it's best to start while it's still cool and damp, like the springtime. This year's been a phenomenal year for people who started grass. We have a sprinkle every now and again. Don't need to water it as much by hand, but always remember, a hot day with a real hot sun, it can really burn out a set of seed real quick, and it can lead to disappointing results, because ultimately when we do all the work of seeding a lawn, we put a lot of money, time, and energy into it, so it's really important to make sure we do that last step, which is water it and make sure it's properly fertilized. Also remember, during this time of the year, it's a great time to start pruning shrubs. When to prune which ones? Well, one of the indicators for most people is once the bloom season is finished. So once you have the blooms up there and they're starting to get to the point where they're no longer colorful, they're starting to get to those grays and brown faded colors, you're in good time to prune. Then for the next couple weeks, depending on the plant, there's a few that don't fall by that schedule, but most do. And when most trees and shrubs prefer being pruned just after flowering, doing so not only helps the plant stay healthy, but it also helps maximize next year's bloom. A lot of people don't realize, but like a couple weeks after a lilac throws its flowers and it pushes off the old flowers and the new ones come on, what pushes off the old flowers is the new flower bud starting to establish for next year. It doesn't all the way come out until the next year, but it's starting to establish. So that's why pruning a tree or a shrub out of season can be really harmful, first off for its health, but second off for the main purpose we have them, which is the beauty, the look that they give us outside of our homes, the nice spring flowering. If you trim a bush late fall that's going to be a spring, early fall flowering shrub, you're going to end up without flowers. So just keep that in mind, or you're going to end up with very limited. Same thing with plants like hydrangeas and different things like that. If you have the endless summer varieties where they flower all summer long, you may get away with it, just have a slower start to the season. If you took like a traditional heritage bloom like a Nico Blue or any of these other ones, you could end up in a situation where you have no flowers for the entire year. So just keep that in mind when you're going to be pruning them, to pay attention to the season. Another thing, when you're planting annuals, it's best to start small and let them fill in. Make sure to read the tag for proper spacing, and proper spacing leads the plant to looking messy. This is common not just with annuals, but really all plants. Plants are just like puppies and kittens. They start small and they end up huge, and usually we say, wow, I'm surprised by how big it got. Take the time to read the tag that comes with the plant. First off, make sure it's in the right zone as far as whether it's sun or shade or partial. Take a look at what zone it's in. Make sure you don't plant it too early. Take a look at what its watering requirements are. Make sure you don't give it too much or too little water. check out what its fertilizer needs are, and then the space. The space is big because you see this often with landscape designs. People want instant gratification. They want that full spread where you can't see any ground day one when they put it in. The problem with this is it breaks all principles of plants, because as soon as we put them in the ground, they start getting established. They're going to grow and they're going to get much larger. The other reason I like planting small plants to start is they tend to get root bound when they get older. Plant stock that's been in a nursery for a very long time, it's usually pruned very upright and the roots are a tangled mess down below in the pot. If you think in basic tree plant science that the roots are the size of the crown on average when they're in the ground, how does that mean that pot has enough root mass to sustain that plant? Truth is, most of the time it doesn't. Or if it does, it's in a very unhealthy condition called girdling roots, which is where they entangle the trunk and they're choking off the plant. This is the reason we see so many failed plants in landscapes, and also the reason we see so many failed plants in places like Lowe's where they plant the trees wrong. These are common issues that we want to avoid, so by starting small, that can really help us out. Some other things you can do around the yard during the springtime would be weed and feed. It's a great time of the year if you're a person that's going to be taking care, whether you do organic or synthetic. It's completely up to you, but it would be a great time of the year now to put down the weed and feed. If you were thinking you wanted to put the crabgrass regulator down, you may be able to still squeak it in, but it's a bit late unless it's your second application. When you want to do that is actually when the forsythia blooms, which has been going on for weeks now. It's also known as when the soil temperature, not air temperature, but the soil temperature gets to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Once that happens over the course of the next 3 to 5 days, it leads to the germination of the crabgrass. If it's too late and you already missed it, there's other ways to spray it out in the future, but it's best to stay on the proper treatment, because if you don't put down the weed and feed now and you skip over and you stay with that crabgrass pre-emergent, you're going to end up in a situation where now you have weeds and crabgrass. Also remember though, if you're doing any seeding, to either go to a place like Site One or other places that are industry professional ones and mention you're going to be doing seeding and spend the extra money, or don't put down the crabgrass preventer or the weed killer. Now, I know I just told you that these are the right steps, but you want to put down just a regular starter fertilizer and then later on come in with a spray after probably the second to fourth mowing on the new grass, so it's strong enough to sustain itself through removing those other things. Start the grass and then take it out later, and that'd be great. If you have a fish pond, it's getting pretty late in the season to be opening it, but you should definitely open it. Remember, as it gets later in the season, the fish come back to activity. They're going to be eating and they're going to be creating waste. Without having that waterfall running and without having that filter running, you're not going to be letting the ammonia and other gases that can build up in the stagnant water in your pond happen. You're also going to end up making a mosquito breeding pit, because that filter and that pump are going to end up moving them around. And instead of being just stagnant water, it's moving water, and the fish will find them and they will eat those mosquito larvae and all the other things that try to grow in that water. It's a great time of the year right now to get out there and do your weeding and edging and get everything ready for mulch. Mulching at this time of the year can save you a lot of work. If you let the weeds grow all the way in your beds, then you end up losing a lot of soil and other materials from your beds. So great time of the year to take care of that. Also a nice time of the year to take out the pressure washer, wash down, whether it be concrete patios, decks, vinyl siding. Remember, when washing a house, you want to get a ladder and safely do it downhill, because if you spray uphill on your home is made to prevent water from going downhill, not uphill, and it can cause issues like getting water behind your siding, tearing off roofing shingles. Ultimately, if you don't know what you're doing, either watch a YouTube video by someone that does and then do it, or hire a professional to come out and take care of washing those things. Obviously, we're in pool opening season. When you're opening your pool, take your time. Make sure to document everything and understand what you're doing. Save you a lot of money and time by paying attention to how you open and close your pool. I know a lot of people pay people to do it, but right now with COVID and everything and everyone's so busy, you might find yourself doing it. So documenting the process is going to make it easier. Label the different valves. Tell yourself what's there. So the next time you do it, it isn't like, oh my God, why did I leave it this way and where did I leave off? When you're opening the pool, you're best to do the spring cleanup ahead of the pool. So if you're going to be blowing leaves, all that stuff, before you take the pool cover off, get those out of there. It's going to save you time. And if the pool cover is covered in leaves, Make sure to take your time and clean that off before opening it up and spilling them all in the water or all over the pool deck. Take the time ahead of time, and that's going to save you so much work. Well, there's a ton of things you can do out in the yard this year. Those are just a few I recommend starting the spring off with. Remember, when you're working in the yard, it should be enjoyable. It should be fun. I personally am working on a patio and a walkway right now, and I'll tell you, I love it. I love being out in my yard and just enjoying, and then getting to enjoy the fruits of my labor. So whether you're for sale, you're thinking about selling, or you're just going to be there for the summer and it's your home, these are all projects that can make you feel better about yourself and proud about your home. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Make sure to tell your friends and family about us. Subscribe. If you haven't checked out our weekly newsletter, our blog, or our Facebook group, all under the name Home Ownership, all free. Love to have you there. Remember, it's all about buying, selling, and owning a home. And if you need help buying, selling, or owning your home, reach out to us over here at Momentum Realty. If you're interested in getting a career in real estate, you can also reach out to us because we are currently hiring.